Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone who used their physical presence as a weapon, and wondered what happens when that weapon rusts? There is an unspoken terror awaiting the narcissist as the years steal their youth, a very specific and haunting curse tied directly to physical intimacy. It is a slow reckoning they never saw coming, and we need to talk about exactly why it happens. I know you felt the weight of their games, the way they used attraction to reel you in and then cold distance to punish you. To them, intimacy was never about love. It was a high-stakes transaction where they held all the power. But time is an unforgiving equalizer, and the very currency they used to buy your compliance eventually becomes worthless. It is a tragic design they cannot escape. Think about how much of their identity was wrapped up in being desired, envied, or physically dominant. When you deal with a person who lacks an internal sense of worth, the external mirror is everything. But as the mirror begins to warp with age, a profound panic sets in. They realize the old tricks aren't working anymore. The magnetism is fading, and the room is growing incredibly cold. You might still be healing from the scars they left behind, wondering if they ever face justice for the emotional wreckage they cause. The truth is, their punishment is built into their own skin. As the physical body declines, the narcissist enters a psychological prison of their own making. The tool they use to manipulate others becomes the source of their deepest, most painful isolation. This isn't just about getting older, because aging is a natural process that can bring grace and deeper emotional connection to healthy relationships. For the narcissist, however, aging is an absolute catastrophe. Without a genuine soul to rely on, they are entirely dependent on physical validation. When that validation dries up, the emptiness they tried so hard to run from finally catches up. I want you to picture the reality of their private world right now, stripped of the glamorous illusions they used to project so effortlessly. They are staring at a reflection that no longer commands immediate attention or unearned submission. The phantom power they wielded through seduction is slipping through their fingers like sand. And for the first time, they are truly afraid. It is a specific kind of curse, one that targets the very root of their superficial ego and leaves them completely exposed. They spent decades treating human bodies as disposable objects for their own gratification, never learning how to connect heart to heart. Now, they are left with an object that is failing them, stranded in a wasteland where nobody wants to play their manipulative games. You see, when we talk about this curse, we are talking about the total bankruptcy of their relational strategy. They thought they could always find someone new, always find a fresh face to validate their fading charms. But the math of life changes dramatically in the later chapters. The older they get, the more transparent their tricks become, leaving them with fewer options and zero leverage. Have you ever wondered why they seem so desperate as the years march on, chasing validation with an almost frantic energy? It is because they can feel the walls closing in on them. They know that without their physical currency, they have nothing left to offer a world that has slowly grown wise to their act. It is a slow-burn realization that poisons their remaining years from the inside out. So let us pull back the curtain today and look deeply into this hidden psychological reality. We are going to explore exactly how this intimate curse unfolds, step by agonizing step, in the twilight of a narcissist's life. By understanding this, you will see that the power they claim to have over you was nothing but a temporary loan, one that carries a devastatingly high interest rate. To truly understand why this curse is so devastating, we have to look at how a narcissist views physical intimacy in their prime. For them, the bedroom was never a sanctuary of vulnerability, it was a theater of control. Every touch, every glance, and every performance was designed to bind you to them. It was the ultimate tool for securing supply, ensuring you stayed hooked on their glow. Think of their physical appeal as a sophisticated hunting license that they used to trap empathetic souls like you. They used chemistry as a smokescreen to hide the total absence of emotional depth underneath. But when age strips away the aesthetic appeal, the smoke screen evaporates instantly. They are left standing exposed, holding a weapon that no longer functions in a battle already lost. In psychological terms, the aging narcissist suffers from a profound somatic crisis that shatters their fragile reality. When the body can no longer perform or attract at a high level, Their internal operating system suffers a catastrophic system failure. They don't know how to exist without the constant mirror of external adoration. Without it, they are forced to face the dark void inside. Healthy people transition into older age by trading youthful passion for deep, companionate intimacy based on shared history and trust. They find comfort in holding hands, in being known fully, and in a love that transcends the physical form. But the narcissist completely bypassed the construction of that emotional foundation. They built their entire house on the shifting sands of utility. Now, the foundation is gone, and the house is collapsing inward on itself. Because they treated intimacy as a game of conquest, they cannot comprehend a relationship that doesn't involve manipulation. To them, a lack of intense, youthful desire from others means they have become completely invisible. It is a psychological erasure that breeds an intense, simmering resentment against the world. This resentment bleeds into their physical reality, creating a toxic feedback loop that accelerates their isolation. They begin to view their own body not as a vessel of life, but as a traitor that has failed them. Every wrinkle, every loss of stamina, and every physical limitation feels like a personal insult. They are trapped with an enemy they cannot defeat, watching their power decay. They try to compensate, of course, because the ego refuses to die without a desperate, pathetic struggle. You will often see them targeting much younger partners, trying to leech off someone else's youth to jumpstart their own failing battery. But this desperate strategy rarely works for long anymore. Instead of looking powerful, they end up looking profoundly sad, transparent, and predatory. The younger targets see right through the facade, treating them as a financial transaction or a temporary stepping stone. This drives the narcissist deeper into madness, because they realize they are no longer the puppet master. They are now the ones being used, paying a premium just to pretend that someone still finds them physically compelling. The power dynamics have completely flipped. Imagine the psychological torment of needing physical validation to feel alive, while knowing that every attempt to get it exposes your desperation. It is a constant, exhausting performance that yields smaller rewards. The intoxicating highs of their youth are replaced by a bitter, hollow maintenance routine. They are running on empty, chasing ghosts in a theater that has gone dark. This is the precise mechanics of the curse. They are condemned to crave something they can no longer naturally command. They spent a lifetime starving others of emotional warmth, and now they are starving for physical confirmation of their own existence. It is a closed loop of psychological torment, a prison where the bars are made of their own faded vanity and forgotten, hollow promises. Then comes the definitive turning point, the moment where the illusion permanently shatters beyond repair. It usually happens quietly, away from the public eye, during an encounter that should have been intimate but instead becomes deeply humiliating. The physical mechanism fails, or the partner's eyes betray a look of profound boredom or pity. In that single, frozen moment, the world ends. Pity is the ultimate poison to a narcissist. They would much rather be hated, feared, or envied. When they see pity in the eyes of an intimate partner, it triggers a massive, destructive narcissistic injury. They realize they are no longer a dominant force of nature, but an old person struggling to stay relevant. The shift is sudden, brutal, and completely irreversible from that day forward. Watch how their behavior changes after this realization hits home. The charm drops entirely, replaced by a bitter, defensive cruelty that is designed to push everyone away before they can be rejected. If they cannot dominate through attraction, they will try to dominate through total misery. They punish their partners for the crime of witnessing their physical vulnerability and decay. They start rewriting the narrative, claiming that intimacy is beneath them, or that they are simply too evolved for physical desires. It is a classic sour grapes defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to salvage their pride. Behind the cold, detached mask, the obsession remains intense. They are constantly monitoring how others look at them, searching for a spark that is no longer there. Think about the poetic justice unfolding in this shift. For years, they left you feeling undesirable, systematically destroying your self-esteem by withholding affection to make you beg. Now, they are the ones begging, if not out loud, then through every pathetic action they take. The exact emotional starvation they inflicted on you has returned to settle permanently in their own home. And then it stops. The pursuit of fresh physical conquests becomes too exhausting, too filled with potential rejection to maintain. The narcissist retreats into a bitter, resentful shell, looking out at a world that has moved on without them. The vibrant, dangerous predator you once knew slowly hardens into a statuesque relic of malice, frozen in place by the stark terror of their own reality. They begin to weaponize health issues instead of physical charm, realizing that sympathy can buy the attention that seduction no longer can. It is a grotesque transformation to watch. The person who once demanded your adoration now demands your caretaking, using guilt as a clumsy replacement for the magnetic pull they used to possess. The strategy has changed, but the parasitic need remains. If you are still entangled with them during this phase, you will notice a deep, ambient darkness in their presence. Their comments about other people's youth and beauty become incredibly sharp, venomous, and dripping with envy. They cannot stand to see others enjoying the very physical currency that they wasted on games and exploitation. Your joy becomes a direct threat to their ego. They will try to lock you down, demanding total loyalty while offering absolutely nothing in return. They want you to share in their physical and emotional winter, dragging you down into the dark cellar of their isolation. It is a desperate, final attempt to ensure they do not have to face the cold alone. They want to consume your remaining warmth to keep their own freezing ego alive. But the turning point is complete, and the power dynamic has shifted forever, whether they admit it or not. The invisible chains they used to hold you captive have rusted away along with their physical leverage. You are no longer dealing with a captivating, mysterious magician. You are looking at an ordinary human being who is desperately afraid of the dark, holding an empty box of tricks. This brings us to the stage of total somatic collapse, where the consequences of a lifetime of objectification come due. In old age, the narcissist's body becomes an active battlefield of frustration and profound regret. Because they never valued connection, they find themselves entirely alone in a physical vessel that feels increasingly alien, uncomfortable, and unresponsive to their desires. The curse manifests as a profound, physical loneliness that no amount of distractions can cure. Imagine lying awake in the dark, craving the warmth of another human body, but knowing that anyone who comes close will eventually see past the mask. They are haunted by the ghosts of the people they discarded, realizing too late that those individuals were the only ones who truly cared for them. They look back at their past conquests not with pride, but with a hollow, mounting sense of panic. All those people they used and threw away are out there living their lives, growing and experiencing genuine love. Meanwhile, the narcissist has nothing to show for their journey except a long list of broken bridges and a reputation that keeps people at a very safe, permanent distance. The physical consequence is a state of permanent somatic dissociation. They detach from their own aging form, treating it with a mix of neglect and intense resentment. They cannot care for themselves properly because doing so requires accepting the reality of their human vulnerability. They choose instead to rot in a prison of pride, refusing to acknowledge the breakdown of their temple. This is the harsh, unvarnished truth you need to hear. Their later years are not peaceful, nor are they filled with quiet reflection. They are a chaotic, silent nightmare of envy and unfulfilled longing. The physical intimacy they weaponized against you has become a phantom limb. They can still feel the itch of wanting it, but they have absolutely no way to ever truly satisfy it again. Let that truth sink into your heart for a moment, especially if you are still crying over the ways they rejected you. Every time they made you feel ugly, small, or inadequate, they were projecting their own deepest fears onto you. Now, those fears have become their absolute reality. They are trapped in a barren landscape where no one is coming to rescue them from self-inflicted isolation. The lack of physical validation causes their psychological defense mechanisms to hyperinflate into paranoia. They become convinced that others are mocking their appearance or celebrating their decline. Every casual glance from a stranger is interpreted as an insult, and every whisper is assumed to be a judgment on their faded glory. Their mind becomes a theater of constant, imagined malice. They become a caricature of their former selves, clinging to style choices and behaviors that belong to a decade-long past. It is a visual representation of their internal arrest. They are stuck in the era when they were most physically powerful, unable to move forward. Watching them attempt to flirt or seduce in this state is deeply uncomfortable for everyone in the room. The ultimate consequence of this curse is the total loss of their ability to escape themselves. In their youth, they could always run to a new partner or a new physical distraction to drown out the inner screams of inadequacy. Now, the distractions are gone, the partners have vanished, and the noise inside has become deafening. They are finally locked in a room with their true self. And what a terrifying roommate that true self turns out to be after decades of neglect and abuse. It is a self that knows nothing of love, nothing of peace, and nothing of genuine comfort. It is an entity built entirely out of hunger, staring out through fading eyes at a world that it can no longer manipulate, exploit, or control. The trap has sprung, and the door is locked from the inside. Now, let us step out of that dark room and bring the focus back to where it always belonged, on you. The reason we examine this curse is not to celebrate their suffering with malice, but to break the lingering spell they cast over your life. For a long time, you believed their narrative that you were the one who wasn't enough, that your love was the thing that failed to save the relationship. Look at the reality now with clear, unclouded eyes. The failure was never yours. It was a structural defect built into the very core of their psychological makeup. You brought wine to a well that was entirely filled with poison, expecting to create a beautiful blend. Your capacity to love deeply and value genuine intimacy is a superpower that they could never comprehend or steal from you. As you move forward into your own future, remember that your aging process will be completely different from theirs. Every year that passes can bring you closer to a deeper, more profound connection with yourself and others. You have the ability to cultivate a beauty that does not rely on the tight elasticity of youth, a beauty built on wisdom, kindness, and authentic resilience. The narcissist curse is a powerful reminder of what happens when a human being chooses power over connection and vanity over vulnerability. It shows us that the universe keeps a meticulous set of books, and the ultimate price of treating people like objects is becoming an object yourself. You escaped that ledger, and your debt to their manufactured illusions is paid in full. Take a deep, clearing breath and let the residual shame they poured into your soul evaporate completely. You were not rejected because you lacked value. You were rejected because your light made it impossible for them to hide their growing darkness. They needed someone they could diminish to feel big, but your spirit was simply too resilient to be permanently crushed by their games. The path to true healing begins when you stop looking back to see if they are changing or if they finally understand what they lost. They will never understand it in the way you want them to, because their understanding is limited by their curse. Their awareness only comes as a bitter realization of their own personal loss, never as genuine empathy for the profound pain they caused you. Let go of the need for an apology that will never come from lips that are frozen in a permanent pout of defiance. Your closure does not depend on their confession. Your closure lives in your choice to live beautifully, authentically, and fully in the light. Every day you choose to love yourself is a quiet, powerful victory over the legacy of abuse they tried to hand down to you. Look at your hands, your heart, and your life, and realize that you still possess the capacity for genuine warmth. You can hold someone's hand in 30 years and feel a universe of shared meaning, while they will be sharing a room with a blank wall. That is the ultimate divergence of your paths, the place where your paths separate into light and complete, unyielding shadow. You are free now, completely decoupled from the train wreck of their twilight years. You do not have to watch the collapse, and you do not have to save them from the cold winter they spent a lifetime forecasting for themselves. Walk out of the theater, let the heavy curtains fall behind you, and never look back at the stage where they are playing out their final, lonely act. Their fading allure was a temporary illusion, but the freedom you have earned through your survival is permanent. Never forget that while youth is a season that naturally fades for everyone, a beautiful soul is an enduring masterpiece that time can never diminish. They are left holding a broken mirror, but you possess the whole sky. Go live your life, because you have finally won.